This isn't a superhero story. It's not about a trained assassin or a chosen one. It's about a quiet man who worked a desk job and lost the one person who made life worth living. And what happens when the quiet man decides he had enough? The movie is called The Amateur. By the end, Charles, the man at the center of this history, will be anything but remarkable. Charles isn't your typical hero. He's a CIA cryptographer, the guy who sits in a small, dimly lit room, reading encrypted messages and trying to stop the bad guys before they act. He is not in the field. He doesn't carry a gun. He doesn't chase suspects. He works behind the scenes, and honestly, he kind of like it that way. His real happiness is his wife. Their life is simple, normal, warm. You can tell. It is the kind of relationship that makes the world feel safe. But all that gets ripped away in one moment. There is a terrorist bombing in London. The footage is extremely shocking. People are screaming. Chaos flies the streets, and Charles' wife is one of the victims. No goodbyes, no explanation, just gone. The man who always worked in shadows suddenly finds himself living in a one. Charles goes back to work not because he's ready, but because he wants answers. He wants to know who did it, how they got past surveillance, why no one stopped them. But the answer never came. The agency says the usual things. We are investigating. It's classified. We are doing everything we can. But Charles sees through the lies. He realized that maybe the agency didn't just miss something. Maybe they just chose to ignore it. The people who were supposed to protect lives, including his wife, were too busy playing politics, hiding secrets, or just not caring. And this is where the movie shifts. Charles is broken, but inside that grief, something that starts to grow, a need, not just for revenge, but for truth, for meaning, for something that makes sense in the world that no longer does. He starts training himself. He learns to fight, to hack, and to follow people unnoticed. He becomes obsessed because in his heart, he knows no one else is going to do this. This part of this movie is not about action. This is about transformation. Not just in body, but in the soul. Charles doesn't just become dangerous. He becomes willing to sacrifice his peace, his safety, even his life to find out the truth. Charles disappears, leaves his old life behind. He starts tracking people, following trails. The CIA buried, and what he covers is not just shocking, it's horrifying. The bombing in London wasn't just a random attack. There were warning signs. People inside the agency knew something was coming and did nothing. Why? That's the question. Some of it was politics, some of it was profit, and some of it was just pure carelessness. It's like Charles says in the movie. It was not the terrorists who let my wife die. It was the people who were too comfortable to care. And now, Charles has names. He starts going after the ones involved, not just the terrorists, but the agency officials who keep the truth hidden. And one by one, they start to fail. By now, Charles is not the man we meet at the beginning. He's colder, sharper. He sacrificed everything, sleep, morality, even sanity, just to make sure the world hears what really happened. He's not a killer by nature, but he's no longer afraid to act. He tells the truth out loud even when it gets him hunted by his own agency. In the climax of the film, Charles faces the man who could have stopped the attack but didn't. He doesn't scream, he doesn't beg, he just lays out the truth, calm, brutal, and final. When it's all over, Charles walks away not a hero, not a winner, just a man who stood up when no one else did. He doesn't even find peace. He doesn't get closure, but he exposed the truth, and that somehow feels enough. The Amateur isn't flashy. It's not about big explosion or cool one-liners. It's about loss, about what grief can do to a man who's already invisible in the world. It's about fighting back, not because you want to, but because no one else will. And that makes Charles one of the most human characters I have ever seen in a long time. He never wanted to be a hero. He just wanted his wife back. But when he couldn't have that, he made sure no one could ignore her face.
Subscribe to my channel.